Friends, colleagues and listeners, here we are again, another weekend show with Mr. Dixon. And Stephen, you've done a lot of travelling. And whilst I understand now, a little bit of fatigue, jet lag, things that we only remembered, but now you're experiencing again. And I'm sure you're desperate for the bed or the scratcher, as Jerry Dyer would probably say. And we'll come to Jerry Dyer.
I'm looking forward to my scratcher as soon as we've finished this record, Chris. But you know, we didn't want to let our listeners down, and sorry, we've got some technical problems with a dodgy camera here. There we go. Yeah, we're recording this at I don't know, it's 9:20 at night on Sunday. It's 1:20 in the afternoon for you in the UK. Somebody asked me earlier, do you know what time zone you're on? And I said, actually, I've got absolutely no idea. Now, the good thing with all of this, Chris, is it means that life is getting back to normal.
Yep. Yeah.
The trouble is that I'm slightly out of practice.
That's what so many people are saying now, though, Steve. It's affecting them, and it's also a key decision factor in where they're planning to go and why.
Well, I can certainly see that. I mean, look, I mean, I'm somebody, as you know, Chris, and I know you are too. This is one of the areas that we agree on is, you know, it's much better to be on site, there in person, you know, being seen, being heard, engaging with the people, engaging with the client, engaging with the workforce, and actually, you know, feeling and seeing some of all those wonderful sort of emotions and feelings, and having the discussions and debate and dialogue that you can't do on a Zoom or Teams or whatever other device you use for your video call. So certainly this last 10 days, I've done more travel, I think, in the last 10 days than I probably did in the whole of 2021, I have to say. I've done 9 work trips in the space of six and a bit weeks, and that's pretty good going. So I'm certainly not shy to travel, Chris, as you know, and I know you are not either. And so it's really refreshing to get back out there. But it does beg, you know, you are left sort of questioning oneself, you know, could this be done differently, or, you know, could I do some of this remotely? And actually, I've sort of tended to find myself erring on the side of actually, no, this is all valuable work that, you know, could I have always got in there before. I'd have always done it in person. So no, I wouldn't change what I've done the last 6.5 weeks for sure. I'd always have got on those airplanes, and I'd have always have flown. So I'm suffering a little bit now, but hey ho, small price to pay.
I must admit, I've been doing the same, Steve, on the trips I've done. I've done Amiens, I've done 5 now, and I've got another 3 coming up in the next week or so. And what I've done is I've got a form that I've done myself, and I'm identifying whether there's parts of it that I could have done remotely, what was the benefit on site, and why. And it's made quite a big difference. And it really has focused me on what to make use of now on face-to-face. And what you can do afterwards, which makes a lot of sense, you know, remotely. So it's a pretty good balance now, I think. But
I guess there'll be more of that to come, I think, Chris. I mean, I think, you know, as we saw, I mean, a lot of employers got rid of their offices during the height of the crisis. But at the same time, I think we've also seen a number of employers certainly reinforcing their presence in the cities, you know, and committing to physical presence. I mean, one of the investments I saw just last week, and the reason I'm invested is because my wife works for Citibank. She's an SVP with Citibank, and Citibank in the UK have committed £100 million to redevelop their offices in Canary Wharf, which is a really big statement, I think, but also a really sort of big commitment sort of level of conviction that's been made, if you like, about, you know, the benefits of physical working. And I do think that there are many out there, whilst it might work for some people, largely, I do think that, you know, being present is of much greater value. And I think get your arses back in the office, folks. Now is the time to come back to work, not sitting on your backside at home.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think also, Stephen, companies are now looking at how to be different when people do start coming back in the office more, so that they enjoy being there. And my daughter works for a company, and what they did last week was they put down a curling floor.
Oh, brilliant.
in a hall for all the staff to have a go at curling, because obviously curling's been probably
Well, how apt. We've got the gold medal this morning.
Yeah, the ladies did well. Yeah,
yeah,
and the fellas yesterday.
Silver.
They're doing things like that, and she gets involved in, you know, keeping people occupied, social interaction, and what's happening, etc. And it's making people who are off site want to get back, but nonetheless, I think there's still going to be a balance, a hybrid model, whereby it does make sense for people to, you know, not be there all the time. What the percentage will be, I don't know.
Indeed. Well, it all comes down to flexibility, Chris. I think these are part of the conditions and terms that I think that employers will want to be renegotiating with their workforce. But let's be clear, it will come with a cost. And the cost is not to the employer, it'll be to the employee. So if you're not expected to commute to the office 5 days a week, I think you'll be taking a haircut on your salary, and rightly so, in my view.
Yeah, and that's what you're saying there is a balance. If people want a certain thing,
it's give and take. Yeah,
exactly. And I don't think the T's and C's are going to be the key thing now. It's how agile, how flexible is an employer? Do they care about the people? Can you decide?
Yeah.
Can you decide the level of pressure or the level of expectation or engagement that's on you, which automatically should reflect in the level of remuneration?
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is something that hopefully, you know, our side of our industry will start to realize as well, because something's got to get better with regards to performance and customer experience with all these salary hikes.
Indeed. Yeah.
Now, storms, can't get away from it, Steve. My God. Now, you know, things, every single thing, it's like a Shakespearean play, mate. As soon as things start going wrong in the storyline, nature comes out and does the same thing. I have had trees down, all my fences have gone, everything's gone, including internet, which is why I'm round at a colleague's house at the moment, getting a nice cup of tea. And as you can see, much higher class.
Much higher class mugs than would be in Euroboard, Chris.
Exactly. So I'm gonna have to find out where these are purchased from, because they're great.
John Lewis.
But this old Jerry Dyer, you know, big TV, my goodness me, talk about someone who's made a niche for himself. I mean, he received so much attention, all the national press, so many people were glued to his performances. And I say performances because that's what they were, but it's incredible. But what it did do is it showed that when pilots are necessary and are needed, my God, it's a challenging job they've got, huh?
Well, look, I mean, I flew in on Friday morning, Chris. I flew in from Lisbon. I took the 0700 from Lisbon into Gatwick. Very well aware of the forecast for the day. The red warning was applicable from 10 a.m. Local, and my scheduled arrival was 9:30. We touched down at 9:35. I have to say, it was a pretty sporting approach and landing, one of which I've not had for many years. So you know, that was my personal experience. As the day drew on, of course, it got much worse. I was at that stage back in the as I told you yesterday on the telephone when we caught up. I was back in the safety and security of our apartment in London, and I was glued to YouTube watching Big Jet TV. But what amazed me more was that the entire Skylight Aviation team was glued to Big Jet TV. I probably shouldn't have been surprised by that, but I think when one person commented, the whole of the of our you know, WhatsApp group chat commented that they were watching the same. But more than that, Chris, 250,000 members, or viewers, so 250,000 viewers were active watching landings at Heathrow, which I just thought was phenomenal. It just goes to, I mean, beyond the, you know, the talent and the capability and the, you know, critique that we want to give to pilots and air traffic controllers. You know, mustn't also forget ground staff and everybody else that had to work on the day, and refuelers and everybody, because actually it was a pretty shitty day for for everyone, whilst pilots got the kudos because that's what they normally expect. You know, the joke always is, you know, if you meet a pilot in a bar in his civvies, how do you know he's a pilot? Well, within 10 seconds of meeting him, he's told you so. You know, so pilots typically are not very shy about sort of, you know, coming forward about their talents and their competencies, but they certainly earned their money on Friday. But I would like to shout out to everybody else that massive amount of effort and work, Chris, that went into that. But it was what told me more about that was actually the interest in aviation more generally, more broadly. We didn't see that level of enthusiasm about watching the camera that was stationed at Euston or King's Cross or Watford Junction, did we?
No.
You know,
it's the
fascinating.
It's the realization, Steve, when you did see some of those aircraft on approach. My God, I mean, firstly, I was so pleased I wasn't on the aircraft, but you know, to be able to land something like that in those conditions, that's exceptional skills.
Well, I mean, there were some stories of so there were diversions galore, of course, you know. I was on the TAP from Lisbon, as I mentioned, into Gatwick, and I got in, and I told you this, but for the benefit of our viewers and maybe our listeners, some of them may know the gentleman involved, so I shan't mention his name, but his first name is Alan. We'll leave his surname off for the purposes of remaining anonymous. But Alan on Thursday night at a client dinner in Lisbon said to me, no, Stephen, I'll take the 0800 as planned to Heathrow. You know, no point convincing me to take the 7 a.m. to Gatwick because I've got to get up at 5 o'clock. You know, and I said, well, all right, are you sure? And he said, yeah, no, actually, in my car's at Heathrow. So fair enough. Well, because I flew out of Heathrow and back from Gatwick, because I had no car involved in the decision. And anyway, Alan departed an hour later than I did from Lisbon, had 2 go-arounds after being in the hold, probably somewhere around Brookman's Park or somewhere around that. He then had two go-arounds at Heathrow before the aircraft diverted to Orly, Paris Orly. Well, if that wasn't bad enough, after 2 hours on the ground and then pushing back, thinking they were now on their way to Heathrow, the crew did not tell them until the doors were closed that they were returning to Lisbon.
I mean, we shouldn't laugh, but
so he left Lisbon at 0800 hours. He landed back in Lisbon at 1800 hours. I saw another story of a shuttle, a BA shuttle between Edinburgh and Heathrow that simply went Edinburgh, Heathrow, Edinburgh. So they arrived at Edinburgh 4 hours after they left.
It's incredible what the repercussions can be, but it also lets you know, the weather is so good these days. If something looks like it's going to disrupt travel, you know, take caution and make sure you act on it. And that's what I did as well. I came back a day earlier from Spain, so I wasn't coming back.
Well, I remember, Chris, I was living in Leatherhead in the 80s. Was it 89 or 88? When did we have that terrible storm that Michael?
Yeah. When everything came, that was a terrible.
That Michael Fish forgot to predict. But we were in Leatherhead in Surrey, and anyway, there was a terrible storm. I think there's the last storm that we had. Probably back 35 years ago, wasn't it? Yeah. And of sort of similar ilk, and of course it was disastrous. But this was pretty special. But hey, look, in serious note, yes, to all of the aviators out there, they did an exceptional job and well done. And you know, the phrase that pilots would always use is, you know, I'd rather off be down here wishing I was up there than being up there wishing I was down there.
Exactly. And I've got a lot of people I know up north. They were bombarding me with things, and it did make me laugh because they put one out where it was a message which said, you know, everybody down south, batten down the hatches, you know, cover all your tables, put your valuables away, stay
indoors. Every up north, put an anorak on.
Yeah, and then it said for all northerners, just put an extra coat and hat on. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. But getting back to disruptions now, Steve. I mean, this Ukraine issue and the extra awareness or vigilance now for cybersecurity threats. I mean, that could really cause a lot of problems as well for our industry. When you let your mind wander, you know, it can be you know, the amount of things that can happen would also be terrible now if that started to happen.
Well, it looks like it's some. I mean, there's some. We're coming, the Sunday evening my time, and certainly it looks like the noises are from, government sources. How credible they are is to be determined, but that there is some action imminent, and I think whatever happens there will be regrettable for not just all of Europe, but all of the world. I mean, I think this is sort of perverse that we are in this situation. And whilst there's a level of brinksmanship involved, I suspect, with the strong man that is Putin, I do think that we are now on this sort of a level of a precipice, that will go one of two ways. And we've already seen the impact of Russian actions in Ukraine with the tragedy around MH17 a number of years ago, and we're now seeing airlines avoiding Ukrainian airspace again. And actually, hat goes off to the Ukrainians, who seem to be really sort of, I mean, they are made of pretty strong special stuff, Chris, I have to add. Seeing those images of grandmothers wielding AK-47s as sort of disarming as it is seeing a grandmother, it is also very challenging seeing somebody in that sort of predicament who will protect themselves and their grandchildren. And yeah, hey, look, it's not good for anyone. But more than that, we've got the pressures now on oil price, Chris, that for our industry, just as it's recovering, the pressure on oil and gas is one that will affect aviation directly. And whilst we can accelerate as much as we want towards SAF and the like, it's going to be a big challenge going ahead. So I wouldn't be expecting airfares or the cost of carriage in terms of shipments and goods to be changing anytime soon. In fact, the opposite. I'd be expecting movement north, as we've seen with escalation in CPI, and 6-7 percentage points will be common, I think, for the next few quarters for sure.
Yeah. No, it's it just I don't know, just never seems to end now, does it? It's crazy. But like always, we'll get through it, and there'll be lessons learned. But talking about lessons learned, Steve, some of the issues that are happening now with customer service, with safety issues, etc., it's sort of beggars belief as to what's actually been learned as a result of the COVID situation and now what's facing us.
Yeah, I saw somebody the other day. They're a bar owner. I think they were on my Facebook or Instagram page, and they were complaining that a customer had complained to them that their service standards had been reduced due to COVID, and that they were using COVID as an excuse to reduce service standards. And I didn't comment on that. You'll be surprised to hear. I know you'd think I normally would be right in there like a rat up a drain pipe, but I chose not to, because hospitality is not my business, and it's not an area that I felt was appropriate. So I do have some level of restraint now and then, Chris, but I did feel that my friend has been rather disingenuous when they suggested that it was a customer that was wrong, and actually this was nothing to do with COVID, and actually it was kind of resetting to the new normal, which I thought was a complete and utter load of bollocks. I did feel that was inappropriate, and I do think that a lot of companies still are capitalizing on this COVID nonsense. An example, I flew yesterday with Etihad, an airline that and love well, Chris, I'm sure. Having served, I wouldn't say you didn't serve your time there, clearly, but because you served your time, I think, elsewhere in Germany, or with the German.
But Steve, just sorry to interrupt you there. Lufthansa was an incredible learning platform. Yeah. But Etihad was a sort of a commercial and a marketing and the most wonderful house in days. It was brilliant.
Yeah. So I know, I know, we might have disagreed about Hogan and others in that business, but I like Etihad, and Rami and I, fly a lot with Etihad. But the service was very different. The crew are wonderful. The hard product is wonderful, but the soft product has changed. You know, and I even spoke to the crew in the galley mid-flight, and they were sort of saying, "Oh, but we're starting to wear all this PPE and these bloody like plastic aprons, and we're having to do all of the service rather than doing the hand-run service in the cabin.
Yeah.
You know, starter, entree, dessert, coffee, you know, liqueurs. Now it's all sort of given to you on a oneer, and
Yeah.
and they said, oh, you know, Emirates is not doing that anymore. Qatar's not doing that anymore. And they've all gone back. And I said, well, even bloody British Airways isn't doing that anymore, who I came back with last week from the US, from Los Angeles. So I do think that there is an element of that is seen by the staff as being slightly disingenuous to the customer product that they want to offer. But it's the management decisions, Chris, that is not yet sort of, you know, reaching the front line or letting them sort of, you know, still buy into it. And honestly, the crew were fabulous, I must say. They were really superb on both sectors. But I do think that that there will come a point in time where we've all just had enough of this, and it's starting to wear thin, and we need to, you know, move on and get over it.
Well, I've got to say, I just finished last night, and it's not often I do it, a very long letter of complaint to a carrier, because the services on a recent set of flights on the same carrier, and a carrier that I've got a lot of time for, but this was just beyond, just beggared belief. I've done a huge complaint to them, and I just think now perhaps is a time for management to actually ask some of their staff, you know, do you really want to work for this brand? And do you understand what this brand is supposed to mean with regard to purpose and values? Because if you don't, you know, you shouldn't be representing that company. The level of the staff and the way they performed. And also, Steve,
careful,
clearly the contracts, because some of the equipment that was being used, like there was a remote loading and the stairs, that they were filthy, they were dangerous. There was bits of rubber hanging off on the handrails. It was disgusting. And so many things went wrong, from not having climate control in the cabin. They apologized. People were putting coats on, to not being able to turn the lights off on a night flight, to having no in-flight entertainment. You would have gone mad at this, my friend. The wine, irrespective of color, was warmer than some of the radiators I've had in my life. And no excuses whatsoever, and no apologies. And you know, people just being down, and that won't do them any good, and it definitely won't do the company any good.
No, I think, look, Chris, I mean, you know, in an environment where we are now short of workers, we are short of you know, a competent workforce, and recruiting like mad. The ones that we've got to protect and retain. We've got to have a level of consistency, and the ones that understand and know the product are the ones that have been there for the longest time. And one of the crew that I spoke to on Etihad, I mean, I'm a bit more open than you are. You're very discreet. You never mention the carriers, but I've got, you know, I've a slightly different approach to life. But the crew on Etihad were, you know, she'd been there for 12 years. And she was rather embarrassed that this was going on. And I said, look, you know, this, you know, that length of tenure in Etihad is a pretty significant thing now. Now, that wasn't the case before, Chris. It was a long, but of course, there's this massive churn now where Etihad have kicked a lot of people out. And also now bringing people back on different conditions and terms and salary scales and pay scales as well. But she's somebody who, I mean, she was utterly brilliant, but she was genuinely saying, we now have a problem. I understand there's some financial impacts. We've all gone through that, and of course the crew get that more than many because they weren't flying, Chris. They weren't earning. So the company doesn't have to tell the crew how difficult it's been financially. They know because it hit them in their own pocket. What they need to do is make sure that they arm them with the tools to do their job and engage with the customers in the way that they have. Now, the stock product, as I said, was great because the crew, I think, are fabulous. But some of the material sort of benefits of, you know, flying in a premium cabin are now lacking, and they're not on British Airways, and they're not on Qatar, and they're not on Emirates. So, you know, Etihad need to get back in the game.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm sure if anybody's there now, and they listen to it, they'll reflect on it. But talking about Etihad as well, and someone who I think the world of, Martin Drew, who's the SVP there for sales and cargo. Something they're doing now, which is again, enhancing their caring side of the culture. But they're doing, and something that I think you'll be interested in, is they're launching this forever home for animal rescues. So I don't know if you've heard of that.
That was,
Steve.
well, I just had a small animal issue there to deal with. That's what I was dealing with a second ago, because someone came in to try to take the dog while she had a bone in her paws and her mouth.
Ooh,
and I
ooh.
was slightly recommending that's not a great idea. I can take the bone from her, but nobody else can. So that's not a wise move.
That'd be the same as someone trying to take some baked beans off of my plate, my friend. Yeah, yeah.
Well, or somebody trying to take the hibiki out of my hand, Chris.
There you go. Hey, how people have got different.
No, but sorry. So what's the Etihad animal partnership?
Yeah, well, what it is they got a new policy enabling the UAE national carrier to consider requests from bona fide rescue and animal welfare organisations for not-for-profit transportation of animals at risk. So they're supporting, genuine organisations. So it's called Forever Home. Reflects Etihad Cargo's desire to assist.
Yeah,
it's good. It's nice. Things like that, nice positive things make people see what's going on. And then something that old Dave Ambridge will be well pleased with. Lufthansa Cargo now only flies with electronic airway bills, so it'll be able to yeah.
Well,
and then something.
David and I were exchanging text messages earlier about something rather amusing. Let's just say he's raring to go, Chris.
Oh, he is indeed. I spoke with him this morning myself. Yeah. And Airbus reporting strong results amid
good on them.
Amicable resolution to Qatar Airways feud with the old paint peeling off and
the delamination. Yeah. Well, I don't know if anybody's watched that, or if you have, Chris, the Boeing documentary on Netflix. Have you?
No, I haven't. But
I think so. Shout out to Netflix, who produced a program on around the 737 Max, essentially, which was a really sort of insightful view of the insider sort of assessment of the impact of that on Boeing, and more tellingly, the detail behind some of the decisions that were made, which I thought was really interesting. So yeah, you can find the documentary on Netflix. It's something about the downfall of Boeing, or some Boeing downfall, or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
really worthwhile watch.
And on that, let me ask you something. If you were due to fly back from wherever, and you were told, which I understand you have to be told now, that it was a 737 Max, would you fly on it?
Yes, no problem.
Absolutely no problem.
No issue.
All right, fair dues. Air France posting quarterly core profits as air travel rebounds, so that's nice. Nice to start seeing people showing that the results are coming in more favourably than before. So that's brilliant. And then also one of the stories that I thought
unusual for Air France to have anything positive to say, Chris.
Yeah, but the bait went there. Yeah, that was a good one. But one of the stories that I thought was great, and I thought the way it was responded to was fantastic. Manchester Airport. So a flight carrying the Manchester City team was forced to divert in a storm, and it landed at Liverpool. John Lennon. Yeah, and the Manchester City. The data showed that the plane circled over Manchester 3 times before diverting to Liverpool, which I thought was fantastic. And but there was a message that they put. I mean, let me see if I can find the message. It was very. I thought it was very funny. Something about landing in the where's it, forced to divert? Where is it from? What was the message? Oh yeah, but in a humorous but entirely false response, Liverpool Airport went on to welcome the team to the football capital of England. I thought that was great. So, but they loved that. Yeah.
I thought that was Brentford, Chris.
No. I wish it was, mate. They lost again yesterday. They're getting into a very
a pickle, shall we say?
Yeah, thank God they had the first seven games were pretty good, but they're in trouble now, I think.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, right. So listen, my friend. Right, lovely to have you back. And we'll speak
Well,
again.
I'll be back in a different location next week by the time you talk to me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you will. But what we'll do is we'll.
I'm off to Switzerland next week, so I'll see you from the mountains again.
Yeah, no, nice one. But I've got a couple of specific topics that I want to run past you for next week. So I'll surprise you as usual, and but it's a couple of real specific ones, things that people have sent in to me again, saying, "Can you please cover this?" So I'll do that with you. All right. So take care of yourself wherever you are.
Cheers, Chris. Stay safe. I hope you get your lecky and your Wi-Fi back on ASAP.
Yeah, and enjoy the scratcher, my friend.
Thanks a lot. Cheers, Chris.
All right, cheers.
See you.